That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, I have been waiting to make this video. I cannot wait to talk about Justin Jefferson, my wide receiver 3 going into the NFL draft, only behind CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy. Well, it looks like he probably should have been wide receiver 1. I mean, unreal what we just saw his rookie season. But before we get into the video, I want to thank everyone for allowing us to pass 2,000 subscribers. Absolutely massive. This was done with all of your support in dropping likes on the videos, as well as commenting what you would want to do with these players. That helps us get recommended to new listeners and new people in the flock come out here and join. And I love to see it, and I owe y'all a massive thank you. But let's talk about Justin Jefferson, and let's talk about what we think Justin Jefferson can be in Dynasty Fantasy Football going forward, and what kind of value we should hold over him. And while, yes, I think that he clearly has demonstrated what kind of caliber of a wide receiver he is during his rookie season, just like we did with all these other rookies, it's going to be so important for us to also look at what kind of a wide receiver Justin Jefferson was coming out of LSU, coming into the NFL draft, because getting as many data points in our sample as possible helps us paint a better overall picture of what the player is and how we should be evaluating them and viewing them in the lens of dynasty leagues. Okay, so like we do with all of these players, we're going to start it off with the category that means so much and goes overlooked by a ton of people, and this is going to be age. Okay, so with Justin Jefferson, I mean, he is checking that box, 21 years old coming into the NFL draft. I know I'm annoying saying this. I feel like the old guy across the street. But anyway, how is Justin Jefferson younger than I am and completely dominating NFL defenses as if it's nothing? It makes me question what I'm doing with my own life. I mean, absolutely amazing what Justin Jefferson has been able to accomplish at such a young age. And it's definitely a difference with him doing this at 21 years old compared to him doing this at 24 years old. And that we know Justin Jefferson still has a ton of runway to continue to develop his craft, to continue to get better at the game of football. And what we need to look at next is we need to look at the team investment made by the Minnesota Vikings. And he was selected with the 22nd overall pick in the first round. So clearly this indicates that the Minnesota Vikings were planning on him being the wide receiver 1 going forward for their franchise as Adam Thielen really phases out of Minnesota. And he has prototypical size, 6'1", 202 pounds. You love to see that. And I want to remind everyone, or just let you know, if you have not been playing Dynasty for a while, that the narrative around Justin Jefferson before the NFL draft, before the NFL Combine this past offseason, was that Justin Jefferson, yes, was highly productive at LSU, but he was only a product of Joe Burrow and that system. He was a subpar athlete, and he was not going to be able to come out here and demonstrate anything at the NFL Combine to get people excited. Well, he silenced everyone, running a 4.43 faster than Jalen Reagor, which a lot of people were hyping up to be the best athlete in the draft class. And this put him in the 82nd percentile for size-adjusted athleticism, and showed that Justin Jefferson was not only a product of the system at LSU, but also a great athlete on his own right. And I want to kind of dive into something that we have not talked about in videos as of late. I definitely referenced this a ton this past offseason, but I did a very in-depth study for one of my statistics classes my junior year at the University of Texas. And here, what I was studying is the impact on high school recruit rank going into college and predicting future NFL success. And what we actually found with that study is that there was a good amount of predicting factors in terms of high school recruit rate, as well as program that they went to, if you were looking at running back success at the NFL level. But in the case of the wide receiver position, literally high school recruit rank has no indication of being impactful for predicting future success. And here, that was a big question mark around Justin Jefferson, the fact that he had no pedigree going into LSU. He really had to climb the depth chart on his own. This is why we saw him in college not average a single receiving yard a game his freshman year, but then his sophomore season, he was able to take that next step up to average 67 receiving yards a game. And then his junior year, he was able to have that full-on breakout, averaging 102 receiving yards per game. So this is just very notable in that I want to make sure that everybody understands this for the future evaluation of these 2021 rookies, and that please don't get hung up on the prior draft pedigree, the prior high school recruit pedigree for these players that are coming into the NFL draft. At running back, yes, it is slightly predictive, but at wide receiver, it does not matter at all. So I am completely willing to write off the fact that Justin Jefferson did not have a single receiving yard his freshman season, and that he was spending that time grinding up that depth chart. He was spending that time proving that he was worth a spot at LSU. And once he was able to do that, I mean, Justin Jefferson's underlying metrics were pretty nice. I mean, his breakout his sophomore season at the age of 19 put him in the 75th percentile in terms of age breakout. And if we look at how much of the offense he was able to soak up through the air, it was 30% of the overall passing offense went through Justin Jefferson, and this puts him in the 50th percentile, which pretty much just means that that's an average dominator rating for a wide receiver coming into the NFL draft, which you hate to see, but it's understandable because Justin Jefferson played on an LSU team that had a player like Jamar Chase, that had a running back like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So you're not going to be expecting Justin Jefferson to have a ridiculous amount of targets in that situation. This is very similar to what we had with Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry coming into the NFL way back in 2014, both out of LSU. Very similar to the 2019 NFL draft, seeing both A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf come out, where, yeah, their underlying metrics of their dominator ratings weren't necessarily that good, but it's because they had a ton of competition playing alongside them in college. And then if we look at what Justin Jefferson was able to accomplish during his rookie season, I mean, by far and away, not only did he put up the best rookie wide receiver season in the entire NFL, but I think that he should actually be in consideration for Rookie of the Year. Maybe if we had Tyrod Taylor lasting a month rather than just a game, we would have seen that award going over to Justin Jefferson. But regardless, 79 receptions, almost 1,300 yards. I'm recording this before week 17, so I'd imagine that Justin Jefferson passes that 1,300 mark this season. That means he is having 84 receiving yards per game right now, 7 total touchdowns. But what's most impressive, in my opinion, is not only has he been able to soak up so much volume in the offense, but he's been able to have incredible efficiency. I mean, he has not been seeing these numbers off of a ridiculous amount of targets. I mean, he is currently averaging 11.2 yards per target, which is an extremely high number for a wide receiver, not even to mention a 21-year-old wide receiver. So I think that Justin Jefferson, his rookie season, clearly silenced all of the doubters, silenced all of the haters. And if we're trying to project what Justin Jefferson and his target share is going to look like going into 2021, we know that Kirk Cousins is locked in as the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, given his guaranteed money. And with Adam Thielen, yes, if you look at the contract and the dead cap space, yes, they could cut him if they desire to. Knowing that he's going to be 31, I think maybe this is the point where they start to have the conversation. But after this fantastic season from Adam Thielen, he should definitely be playing through his 2021 season on this contract. But then afterwards, where he has no dead cap space at all, it'll be a 32-year-old wide receiver. I think that is when the Minnesota Vikings seriously consider going out there and just hitting him with the axe and getting him off the roster. I know it's brutal to say, especially after Adam Thielen just had a fantastic season for the Minnesota Vikings. But guys, I mean, it's the NFL. This is what we see. It's very hard to project. I know a lot of people don't like saying it because when you're wrong, you look like a complete idiot. But it is completely reasonable to be expecting that once Adam Thielen is 32, 2 years from now, once Adam Thielen really has no dead cap space on that contract and on top of it, he is getting paid like a premier wide receiver at the NFL level, I think then they could decide to have that conversation in cutting Adam Thielen. And then if we're also looking at someone seeing targets in the offense, Kyle Rudolph looks like he is for sure going to be cut this offseason to make way for Irv Smith to continue his breakout. But with Justin Jefferson, I think what we are going to see in 2021 is I think we are going to see only positive regression. And what I mean by positive regression is I mean that he is going to see more targets in this offense for what kind of value he is bringing per target. So I'll say the efficiency should slightly come down, but I think the overall volume should skyrocket where he is the solidified wide receiver 1 in terms of the target share over Adam Thielen, as Adam Thielen is going to be 31 years old. Justin Jefferson should be 22 years old. So one player is definitely on the way down. The other one is passing him on the way up. So here, I think that Justin Jefferson is going to step up to be an alpha wide receiver. I think that we should also expect him to stay in that low-end wide receiver 1 range just because this Minnesota Vikings offense does not want to pass the ball at an extremely high rate, but it is in the range of outcomes for a Dalvin Cook injury, for a change to the defense that causes this offense to be a little bit more pass happy. And if that's the case, I think Justin Jefferson does have top 5 overall upside. Well, that's it, guys. Let me know where y'all are valuing Justin Jefferson in Dynasty startup drafts this offseason. I think that he is a solid selection in the second round once we see those other running backs going off the board and the elite quarterbacks in the Superflex leagues. But, I mean, Justin Jefferson looks like a cornerstone Dynasty asset that you can truly build your team around.